Hi, I'm Rachel. Welcome to Life on Purpose. I invite you to join in on this journey to live a life of deep meaning and intention. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Life on Purpose. I'm Rachel Egbert, and I'm just grateful you're joining me today because we are going to have a great conversation. Today, I am welcoming D'Angelo Kinard as my special guest on Life on Purpose, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So, D'Angelo Kinard is one of the most sought after strength and conditioning experts in the country. And looking at his Instagram, I am not surprised at all. You'll see some amazing things on there. I loved looking at your Instagram and your website. Um, Amassing more than 24 years of training experience, Mr. Kinard has worked with a variety of clients, including top professional and amateur athletes, models, military and law enforcement, musical artists, celebrities, rehab and recovery patients, and several sports teams. Emphasis is placed on the mental component of health and wellness as much as the physical, and I'm excited to talk more about that. This fresh perspective has set him apart in the industry. As a student of the martial arts for over 2 decades, his work with some of the top combat athletes in the world has created demand for his expertise around the world. Motivation and mental conditioning is integral in his training approach. Inspiring and motivating some of the world's top athletes has created his passion for inspirational speaking. So I'm so grateful to have you on today, D'Angelo.
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am looking forward to this conversation because for many things, but it sounds like you are just super passionate about what you do and you have such a wide range of experience and training with different types of individuals. So,
Absolutely.
I would love to start with, is this something you have always been passionate about, or how did you get into this training world?
Sure. So let's rewind to high school. I was an athlete and I was always interested in improving my own performance. So it just so happened that one of the coaches was a trainer. And just being self-interested, I basically made him my mentor. It was solely by accident. And with that, I was able to help coach some of the women's teams in terms of their strength and conditioning. So just something that I had a general interest in, nothing that I set out to sort of pursue. I actually attended Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas, where continued with my football career. And what I began to realize is, they had their own training programs, and it was sort of geared for a general populace when it came to the design. So I said, hey, I'll have some experience and I'll sort of design and modify for my own needs. And of course, with the football, injuries come, and although that kind of slows you down, I took that as an opportunity to learn. So some of the trainers there in terms of injuries, taping, again, I always like to learn. I really have a passion for learning. And coming out of college, I actually had a job opportunity lined up. I thought my career was going to be basically driving the desk for the next however many years. And the company actually went on strike. So no job at that time. And I said, well, since I have this time, let's see how far this football dream can go. And I said, well, I'll prepare for the Canadian Football League. I mean, obviously, coming from a small school, I knew that the odds of making the NFL were great, but I still wanted to see where it would take me. And in the midst of that training, one of the trainers at the local gym said, you just seem like you know a lot about this stuff. I'm learning more from you than I have ever learned from a course or training and that sort of thing. You should become a trainer. And I was like, I never really considered it, but I guess I was kind of already doing it. And that's what I pursued. And from there, just things developed. And what I always enjoyed was seeing other people reach their best. So there was a turning point, maybe 3, 4 years into training, where I said, it just seemed like things weren't taking off as great as I wanted it to, and became a little dismayed in future prospects because, again, it was fairly new, in terms of career path, and it wasn't something that I attended college for. So I wasn't sure if I needed more education or, what exactly the next step would be. And one of my clients came in. She actually had double knee replacements and came to me in a wheelchair, and sort of the protocol of assessing a new client is, what are your goals? And it just struck me because she said her goal was just to walk. And I was like, wow, like I never consider how important an asset this could be, because it was, usually about, I want abs, I want arms, or whatever the aesthetic may be. But she just wanted her independence back. And I worked with her over time, and I saw her go from wheelchair to walker to 2 canes to no cane. And I was like, okay, this is something that really speaks to me. And it's more than just about athletic performance. And from there, I said, well, I'm really going to take this by the horns and start to incorporate, because I went to school for business. I'll incorporate my business and marketing knowledge and try to grow my business. And it sprouted from there. And side note to that training I was doing for the Canadian Football League, I saw a simple road sign that said karate. And I said, oh, well, I haven't taken karate since, 8 years old or something, but I just wanted to try something different. And it just so happened that the particular gym that I walked into, sort of small at that time, but actually had world-class athletes, like totally by accident, totally by happenstance. And once I started to connect the dots, I said, well, things were in place for a reason. And there was a reason why I found that place and was exposed to those athletes and had this prior knowledge. So at that time, if you're familiar with like UFC, MMA style fighting, there was still this mindset that martial artists shouldn't lift weights. And I come from football, where it's strength training, it's power, and that sort of thing. So when I say literally, they weren't using any traditional protocols in terms of workouts. It was, if it's tournament time, I prepared for the tournament, and then I was just sort of kind of languish in the meantime. And what I promoted was the importance of having a program, in between tournaments, so that each year you're building on your performance. And with that, I developed a program for that particular school. And from there, we spawned about, I think at that time, early on, about 4 or 5 world champions in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then we had an athlete from the Ultimate Fighter TV show that came calling, and I started working with him. So these things sort of blossomed. And currently, I work with professional boxers. And actually, in 2 weeks, 2 weeks, one of our current clients, Lamont Roach Jr., he will be defending his world title on the 28th. And again, so talk about being in the right place at the right time. When I was training the jiu-jitsu athletes, they had a boxing coach, and he said, I really like you. You're going to train my kids one day. Okay, I just took it in stride and didn't think much of it. And fast forward many years later, those kids that I saw and didn't even think would blossom into anything at this level are the same guys that I train now. And it's definitely an awesome experience. And whether they're fitness clients or athletes, I really consider it an honor to work with them, because I'm sort of rare in the industry in that this is what, year 24, and I've literally seen kids grow up and get their license, and now they're married and they have their own kids. And I guess that kind of speaks to how long I've been doing it. But it's what I realize is it's really my platform and my mission to not only bring something tangible and impactful in terms of their fitness, but it's really about developing the whole individual. So that's when I made that transition into I really want to give back, because I was, sort of at the time focused on fitness. And again, you have these voices that sort of speak to you. I was doing I don't know, fitness seminar for a martial arts school, and the guy came up to me after the seminar and said, something you said today changed my life. And I never thought that would be the case, and I said, okay, well, there may be something to this, and I want to pursue it. I want to become, author and maybe a speaker. And again, these happenstance, one of my clients happened to be a high powered speaker, and she said, well, do you want to do it? I mean, you're really passionate about it. I said, absolutely, because I always like to see people at their best, and I want to, contribute in any way that I can. And she said, well, let me tell you the secret about speaking. You're already doing it. Because I guess in my mind, it had to be a certain way. When it came to authorship, it had to be a certain way. She said, there are no rules. Do what you know. So that's the approach I took, sort of the same thing I do with a fitness client. So when I go and speak, I have my warm up, I have my stretch, I have the meat of the workout and my cool down. And I always like to bring a lot of energy. A lot of times I'm placed at that after lunch slot where you get a lot of the I'm tired from the food I just had, and I'm there to wake up the crowd. And particularly where speaking with kids, I'm all over the place. So rarely am I ever actually on the stage. We're in Toronto, and I was running on top of chairs, or I'm jumping up on top of a desk. But you know, I always have sort of just that one mission to say just that one thing that will change one mind, and that's allowed me to really have a reach. And the good thing is via social media and the emergence of different platforms, I'm still able to keep contact with those people, and they'll hit me for a little advice or give me an update on a good thing that's going on with them. So it is definitely a passion. It's not anything that I see myself giving up anytime soon, and I just hope that I can continue to make a positive impact.
That's fantastic. I am really surprised to hear you say that the fighters you were working with hadn't been lifting weights because I would just I just think that that's what every strong person is doing, and so
Absolutely.
I love that they brought you in for a fresh perspective. And I also really appreciate you talking about your client who just wanted to walk because um because s- that is just functional, right?
Absolutely.
Whereas I think, yeah, a lot of the people who I think are who I imagine are working with you are those people who are like bodybuilders because it looks so tough and they're just in such great shape. And so I would love to know from you, no matter where anyone is starting when their
Sure.
journey, when they start wanting to have a desire to improve their fitness, whether it's functional or whether it's for a goal of um, in athletics or their shape, what do you think is maybe a mistake that people make when they start out?
I think one of the biggest things is that they sort of make it too big. So whatever like you said, whatever the goal might be. So I had an instance where I had a young lady that, like you, had been watching, video clips, and she said, I've been watching your videos for 3 years, working my courage up to actually come out and, train with you. And she ended up becoming a really good friend. And um, my biggest sort of coaching point to her was that, we're going to start where it's good for you. Where I'm not here to sort of promote myself. And if you see any of my social media stuff, like you rarely see me, because for me, it's my clients that are the stars. So yeah, I can sort of, and again, everyone is entitled to sort of promote and market their own way, but I feel like it's the cheap way to go about me being in shape. So if you see me appear, it's me cheering them on or trying something new that I might not be good at. So years ago, I had did my first yoga session, and it was a disaster because I had no clue what I was doing. But I like to sort of remind people that you're human. So I wanted to try something new. I wanted to fail. I wanted to learn, but just to take that first step. It doesn't have to be a big step. It doesn't have to be what's popular. Um, like my oldest client currently is 80 years old, and he's been with me for a while. But I just remember starting with him. He came to me with back issues, and he said, I was really apprehensive about working with a trainer, and I don't want to lift heavy weights. And I said again, I totally understand that it's about you. So my focus is certainly on the individual and their particular needs, and I would also recommend that you ask around and more often than that. And again, there are plenty of clients to go around. And yes, I'm confident in my ability, but clearly I can't train everyone. But just find that person that cares. You know, when I get interns, that's the biggest thing. And I try to get across to them is that don't, I'd rather you not be a part of this industry if you don't care. If it's just about the money, or if you think it's just about, you know, sort of elevating yourself, it's not for you, because in the long run, it always catches up to you. And you got to remember that a lot of times when it comes to weight loss and fitness, it's very emotional. So you have to prepare yourself for that, because if you can't envision yourself working with a client that literally cries in front of you, it's not for you. Because again, I've been the shoulder to cry on. I've had challenging clientele where other trainers may be a little apprehensive because they're afraid, I guess, looking bad. But I mean, from individuals recovering from stroke to had a blind client, which again I was always willing to take on the challenge, and you just adapt. And if anything, you know, I like to sort of be a chameleon in that respect. So if it's someone that's, you know, newer, you know, I'm taking the energy down, I'm slowing my pace, I'm making sure I'm, you know, more instructive, and it's not about really motivating per se. And then if I have an Olympic athlete, again, my mission is to find wherever you're weak and improve that area. So although they've trained at, you know, Olympic facilities and had that sort of training, they're like, okay, this is different, because again, I'm there to really focus on what your particular needs. I mean, I think one of my bigger challenges was I had a heavyweight boxer at a time, older gentleman, and you know, toward the end of his career, but he had two bad knees, and he told me, he said, if I have surgery, then I won't be able to compete anymore. So we literally had to do an entire training camp in the pool, no dry land training, because his knees simply couldn't take the weight. And he told me he really appreciated me taking the time to recognize what he needed and being totally honest with him. You know, I could have easily said, well, we'll just tough it out. And I said, but in the long run, I'm concerned about you being able to play with your grandkids. So yes, this may be temporary. And I've had situations where I've turned down opportunities because for me, it just wasn't the best for the individual. And again, I would rather someone else work with them and maybe not have the great experience. But to me, it's about people. And, you know, if you choose another trainer, great, as long as you get what you need.
Hmm. Let's talk a little bit more about that, being prepared emotionally for what might happen. And I know that one of the things you're so passionate about is that mental mindset as well. What what is that emotional piece of it, or what is that mental piece of it that you feel like you are able to be prepared for? Why do people get emotional?
For myriad of reasons. Sometimes it can be, you know, literally past trauma, but more often than not, particularly for folks that have been on a fitness journey for a while, just that almost anticipating failure and having failure.
Mm,
And what I said, when, you know, sort of try to remind people is, one, give yourself permission to be great. But with that greatness, there are going to be some bumps in the road, and you're not going to be perfect all the time. In fact, you're not going to be perfect at any time, but you push yourself. And when you need a break, take a break. You know, sometimes, I'm pushing, sometimes I'm pulling. Sometimes I'm saying, hey, you need a break. And even if that means you're not training for a while, because if it's overwhelming to come in, or if it's, hey, we got to take this time and you just tell me what's going on, it's not always easy, but for me, that person is worth it. And sometimes you're that only ear for them. I mean, you're there consistently, but if they're training once a week or 5 times a week, and maybe you're the only one in their lives that is there for them in that capacity. And I always say my training extends far beyond the threshold. So it's not as if I'm rushing to the next person. It's really growing a community. And that's one great aspect that just sort of happened organically, is that, you know, my clients become, you know, get familiar with each other, and they start to support one another and make great connections. And if, you know, we have a person that's unfortunately has lost their job, then we rally together and do you know anyone in this industry, or are there any opportunities that you're aware of? And there's real support there. So it's really that sort of tribe and community that you're looking to develop, and not just, hey, I train you and go home and I never see you again. I mean, I want to be a part, and to me, that's been integral to my longevity, is because I really care about the person. And I mean, and I've had those situations throughout the years where, I had a period where, uh, like I would say 80% of my clientele were real estate agents, and we had the real estate crash. So, what I did, I said, okay, I understand that maybe you want to take a break, but I knew that just to keep them stimulated mentally, that having somewhere to go consistently and to be able just to smile and, sweat along the way, I created a boot camp just for those people. And they said that it really helped. And, even if it's for free for the moment, I mean, because I've had people stick with me through tough times where I was at a location and I show up one day and go to put my key in and my key doesn't work. So we're in the parking lot, we're in the park. And, of course, the pandemic as well. I was meeting people in the park or standing on one side of the street and they're in the driveway. But I think it's worth it because, again, if you care about people, you want to make sure they're good as a whole person. And, the training is just sort of what we happen to do. I almost kind of characterize it as I don't have clients. I have friends that I happen to train, and I'm willing to take on new friends. And fortunately, because I'm always kind of embracing the people around me. I'm never short for referrals. It's not something that I say to brag, but it's because I care about people. And if you start with that, I think that it'll sustain you in the long run for sure.
Mm, yes, I totally agree. I want to bring up something that I saw in looking at your content, uh,
Sure.
because
Uh-oh.
because you know you the your training sessions aren't just fluffy come and talk. One of the things I saw in there was your workout is my warm up.
Absolutely.
Talk to me
And that
about
was
that. What does that mean to you?
it. You know what? It came out of nowhere. Because I like to challenge myself. And one of my good friends was saying, "Wow, your workout is, I mean, your warm up is basically most people's workouts." And I was like, I just embraced it. So that's just kind of the mindset I had for myself, but then for my clients. So that's absolutely the truth. And again, it's all relative. So my older gentleman that I train, he likes to keep video of himself on his phone and just amaze people at what he's able to do at his age. And again, he's doing the extreme at his age, and then I have the athletes that are doing the extreme at that age, at their age, being much younger. But when I say it's really an ethic that I stick by. I was talking to some of my pro athletes, and I said, you guys have been with me for a while, a decade plus, and I said, I'm always, looking to give you the best that I can deliver. I said, do you feel like I'm getting soft and the workouts are getting easier? They're like, whoa, 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 guy, don't do that. So okay, just checking in. I want to make sure I'm doing my part. And and then I saw a tweet from one of the guys I was doing some prep work with, and he just said, "Man, that workout today kicked my butt." And I was like, "Oh!" And I was just having a thought that maybe it wasn't as tough as usual because it's really about keeping a lot of variety and a lot of challenge. So the object isn't to I want to just make them just so exhausted, but it's really about preparation to the point that they don't have to think about the training. Like that's sort of my goal is that if you're playing football or basketball, I had Elena Beard of the WNBA that I trained for a while. When she's on the East Coast, she would work with me. And she said, "Look, I just want to get 2 more years out of my career. Can you do it?" I said, "Absolutely." And when I'm able to see her perform and see her healthy, that was the most satisfaction ever. So that's my challenge is to give them exactly what they want, challenge them a little bit more. And but I put that same pressure on myself. And when I say it, I'm ultra dedicated to the people I work with. To a degree, they don't like it because they were like, "Are you ever going to take a break? Are you ever going to take a vacation?" I'm like, "Absolutely. I'm just going to schedule my vacation around your workouts." And so, yeah.
That is so great. And what satisfaction you must feel when you do see your clients succeeding. And I think that's the power of an outside perspective because as a human, we all think, oh, this is hard. I can't do this. But then as an outsider, you are there to say, no, like actually, you can do a whole lot more than
Absolutely.
you think you are capable of. And so that's the power. I just thought that phrase was really cute. And uh also, pretty hardcore as well that
Uh,
that you push yourself, you're pushing other people that you're working with to do
Absolutely.
do more than we probably think is, possible. And so that's great. I want to talk about asking more questions and asking better questions. And how have you used that in your life?
And you know what? That's been more recent because I guess I never crystallized that and sort of into a statement, but that's always been my ethic because I just love learning. And I was never been afraid to ask questions, even at the risk of, oh, well, you may look like you don't know what you're doing, or I just want to learn, and if that means that, humility is definitely something I embraced early on. And even in college, I saw a class I was interested in, and it sort of fit my schedule, and didn't think anything of it. Didn't look at the details, and then by the mid semester, everyone's asking me where I'm going to work after school. I said, hey, I'm only a sophomore, and they said, well, this is a senior level class. I was like, oh, I didn't. It just seemed interesting, so I tried it. So, particularly as I speak to young people lately, I try to impress upon them just to ask more questions. Don't take things at face value, and have the courage to ask more questions so that you can ask better questions. Because sometimes we sort of operate on the surface level, and for myself, because that's my level of interest, and I try to express that outwardly, is to get more in depth, because sometimes, whether it's a person, whether it's a subject or a book, you start to ask more questions. The level of question asking improves, and you get more answers. I mean, ultimately, we want to get to the answers. And even in terms of our orientation, I said, some people have a problem orientation, some people have a solution orientation, meaning that for some folks, they only see the problem, versus someone that's focused on that solution. They see the challenge, and no matter what, we're going to keep failing, we're going to keep striving, and we're going to find some solution no matter how long it takes. And I think, for me, asking those questions help you elevate just sort of your level of thinking, what you realize you're capable of, and then you're able to smash those goals and set new ones. So, I mean, for me, it's that constant learning. I'm always reading a book or have an audio book, and considering interesting perspectives. And I always like to sort of take things that can seem desperate, and connect those dots. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's a good way to focus. And for some of my athletes, I'll give them what they call it weird homework, but they'll ask me, well, I need to work on my awareness, as a soccer player. I say, okay, I want you to go find video of owls hunting. And they're like, well, what does that have to do with the? So, and again, that's just me. Things are interesting to me, and like to share them. When owls hunt, their eyes and their head never move. Their bodies move to adjust to current and flying and obstacles in the way, but they're laser focused on whatever their goal is, because they're hunting to save, in order to feed themselves, to sustain themselves. And then they sort of get it, like, okay, I see where you're coming from. I have to stay focused on my goal, but my body has to be active. Same thing with breathing techniques. I'll press upon them that you control the breathing doesn't control you. Because once you start to break down, okay, I'm out of breath. And then I said, well, what does that style of breathing mimic? Hyperventilation. If you're hyperventilating, then you can't breathe. And if you can't breathe, you don't have the oxygen, and your muscles suffer. Oh, so let's separate your breathing from your movement. So even if your body's moving fast, you can train yourself to breathe slow. And you see that in a myriad of sports. So that's um, archery. So I'm taking it from different places and sort of cobbling them together. And I mean, honestly, I consider myself like a student of like Renaissance. I like art. I like poetry. I mean, you name it. And this, you know, creating your own philosophy so that it serves whatever your push to your goal is.
Hmm. What have you been reading or listening to lately that has,
Lately,
yeah, that has changed your mind on something?
my most recent book, what I just finished. Well, I'm in the midst of The Broken Ladder, and I can't remember the author's name, but They talk about context and how your perspective can change depending on your context. So one of the concepts they use is what they call the veil of ignorance. So it's stepping outside of your current context, looking at the elements that may make up that situation. So the example they use is how people view themselves as being poor or not. So they say for someone that's poor, they don't compare themselves to billionaires because it to them is they can't fathom that difference. But they'll compare their current plight to someone that makes just a bit more money than them
Mm,
and they feel poor. But if you put them in a context of someone that may make less than they do, then they feel wealthy. So it's all about perspective. So anything that kind of challenges your way of thinking, they use the example of the being a U.S. citizen, and you love your country, but if you step outside of knowing the country, if you wanted a egalitarian or you wanted a meritocracy, what would you choose? And they show this statistically, people were choosing, which turned out to be Sweden,
mm,
because of how they're structured in terms of education and distribution of wealth. So just how perspective can really change how you view yourself. So it's less about the actual subject, but just sort of if you give yourself permission to be great, you can become great. And I find that a lot of people don't give themselves that ability. Is well, I can't do it because of this, and this thing is holding me back, and there's always going to be an obstacle. We understand that. You're going to have some failures. You understand that. But what you embrace is not being a failure and not being stuck in those things that hold you back. You just work to overcome them. And I've had many challenges, but again, it's just having a mindset and also placing yourself in the shoes of someone outside of yourself. A few years ago, I actually tore my Achilles, and again, I'm accustomed to being athletic and moving all the time. And it was during that time where, I mean, it was literally a decision of, do I really feel like hopping or crawling to the bathroom because it's a lot of work? And I said, you know what? I can see how someone could get depressed during that sort of a situation because you're like, I feel helpless and I'm accustomed to, being able to do things on your own. But for me, it was appreciating how one, it was my left Achilles. So guess what? I can still drive and I can still hop. And I may have to use the motorized cart at the store. And I got to know the cashiers because they would see me coming in, hopping in. And one day I got there and the motorized cart wasn't working. And the lady said, well, do you need me to grab some stuff? I said, no, I have to get all my groceries. So I'm just going to collect myself. I'm going to hop back out to my car and I'm going to go to another store. But one thing I did do, and this is why my clients say I'm crazy, when I tore my Achilles, I continued to train that day. And they were like, you're hopping around. I think something's wrong. It'll just hurt. It's okay. It can't get any worse. And then when I was actually scheduled for surgery, I scheduled my surgery so that I wouldn't miss any clients in the morning. I had my surgery in the afternoon, and I was back on Monday, leg wrapped, and I'm in the little wheel thing with my knee up. So they're like, you need to take a break. But that's just sort of, for me, I'm dedicated. I'm so dedicated to the people that I work with that I schedule things around them. But at the same time, I particularly for the younger clients, I wanted them to see that although this is an obstacle, and this is a challenge, that it didn't stop me. I could easily say, hey, well, I'm in decent shape. I'll just wait until I'm better. I was working out that day. I had one leg going. I was crawling around on the floor. But again, it just gives you that perspective because, again, you have to care about people. And if you're sort of, and I know sort of the stereotype of trainers is that we're yelling at people all the time. I'm like, no, I don't yell at everybody. Now there is some yelling. I will admit to that, but that it's targeted. If it's a higher level athlete, then yeah, I may ramp up the intensity. But then I take time with someone that's an advanced age client or a young kid. I'll sit down again using softer tones, and I want them to feel welcome. And so a lot of the different reading that I do is just the science of why things are, and so that really interests me. And again, taking different perspectives and different angles, and appreciating that even if someone doesn't disagree, their opinions are valid, and just take the time to listen. So much of what we do is just fast paced, and we want to get on to the next thing. And I take the time to just listen, and trust me, it has been an evolution because I'm always a on to the next thing type of person. But I think another defining moment was I was at the airport and they kept delaying my flight, and I'm just like, well, why won't we take off? And then I sat there and I said, if they came out and tossed me the keys and said, fly the plane, there's nothing I can do. So let's practice a little patience. Everything happens for a reason. And it definitely changed my perspective. So, things happen and you just adjust.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's wonderful when people continue their learning and understanding and gain different perspectives, because even if you've read similar things before, different things hit you at different times for different reasons. Thank you for sharing about your experience with your Achilles.
Oh,
And
I don't wish that on
oh,
anybody, but anyway.
yeah, I'm sure. But also, you are probably much more grateful all those days that now you are capable, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and you really appreciate that. I know that I do. When I go through a time of not feeling well, I sort of have forgotten to appreciate sometimes the good health that I really do enjoy. So, to talk a little bit about mindset, I really kind of giggle when you say sometimes you do yell at your clients. Um and sometimes our mindset might need that to push
Right.
ourselves. So, how do you help your clients with their mindset, and how do you kind of help them develop this bigger picture of it's not just physical?
Sure. One of the things I start with is I set rules for the gym. So one rule for myself is I make sure that as the person is coming in, I'm doing my best to read. So it's not just a simple, how are you doing today and good morning. I'm really trying to glean if, it may have been a rough day at work the day before, or, just body language. Because again, that not only is that good for my interaction with my clients, but for my athletes, it's understanding what these cues mean. If from a sports perspective, if you're, I don't think you would ever be in a ring, but you may see a boxing match. If you see someone take one of these, that means they're tired, because we a lot of times you'll hear people say take a deep breath and they'll do this with their shoulders, and I remind them your shoulders aren't where your lungs are located. So why? But that's just one of those reactions we have when we're tired. We're working so hard to get more oxygen. So um, I take that same approach with doing my best to read body language, and I may have had sort of entire program ready for that day, and I read that something is going on. Maybe they don't really want to talk about it initially, so I'll slow the pace, and eventually that stuff comes out. They're overwhelmed because of X, Y, Z, and again, okay, well, do we need to? Let's stop. Let's go outside. Let's take a walk around the building, and either we can continue the session or let's just talk, and we can readjust. And maybe today we need to put you on punching bag so you can get out some aggression. But also in terms of those rules is just the language that we use, because I understand that communication and self-talk is so important. One of my hallmarks is I don't allow the word can't. So, oh, I can't. Nope, can't. I'm not able to do it yet, right? Okay, cool. I'm great with yet, but not with can't. Same thing with you're allowed to cry, but you're not allowed to whine. So I have these hard and fast rules that, because again, I understand it can be hard, and I understand that sometimes we're pushed to tears, but that emotion isn't a bad thing. That means you're giving it all that you have, and that's what I appreciate. And if you give it all you got, I can't ask for any more than that. And it's okay if you have an emotional reaction, but at the same time, we allow for it, and then we move past it. And then if we have to revisit it, because again, like anything else, it's not always a quick fix. And then let's talk strategy. If you're feeling a little discouraged in terms of where you are in your fitness, well, let's talk about what are you eating, what are you doing, what's going on in your life, because all of those things have an effect. Because you'll have instances where the person, according to sort of the plan, they're doing everything that they're supposed to do, but something emotional in their life is happening, and they don't account for that when it comes to their fitness. So if it's like I had one lady, a young lady, and she didn't realize she was pregnant.
Oh,
And again, I've been there, done that. So I'm like, I think it's probably time to get checked. Oh, well, I'm having some sickness and this thing and that thing. I want you to go to the doctor. Understand if you are, you can still work out because I've had several clients. I have one young lady, I guess that was 2 years ago now. I told her, you still got to come in and work out. Like I wasn't asking, you still got to come in and work out. And you're not going to have the baby until after a session that you have with me. She was like, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. And literally, she came in that morning, went into labor that evening. I told you. So, really getting to know the person is important. So you won't see me with a clipboard. I'm taking mental notes, but I'm not sitting there. Let's count the reps and that sort of thing. And asking them what they strive to do, so we can actually create a mental game plan. So if it's, hey, I want to run a marathon. A gentleman I work with, he's a school principal. He was just, for him, I'm just not fit, and I just want to get fit. And I said, okay, cool. We started getting him in shape, and I said, okay, it's time to set some goals. Like, you're doing really great, and let's not waste all this greatness. And we're gonna start running. Okay, so how do I do that? Start walking. He's like, but I know, start walking first. Do that consistently. We'll pick that up to a jog. And I think last year he ran his first marathon and went great. So I'm always pushing to that bigger picture, that bigger goal. And again, he never even anticipated becoming a runner. Now he's embraced that he's a runner. And then again, it's okay, we got this new goal and we're working on that. Let's get a game plan in terms of our mindset. Is that we're gonna rain or shine, we're running. Body hurts, we're running. But when you need a break, we have to take a break because there has to be some balance there. So it's allowing them to be human, reminding them that they are human. You're gonna have breakdowns, you're gonna be tired. I get tired. And listen to your body, but also listen to just sort of what your energy is telling you. If you need a break, take breaks are okay. I mean, I know we live in a world of no days off, and all that sounds good, but part of the recovery is you push and then you rest. And I mean, really active, intentional rest. So turn your brain off, turn off the digital devices, but take a nap, go get a massage. It's hard for me too. I will admit that. So again, I'm just as human as they are.
so what I'm thinking as you were talking about that, about setting goals and especially physical goals. So many people set physical goals to get in shape even
Sure.
and then or run a marathon or whatever. What do you do when someone will say, like, lose their motivation or say, like, maybe I didn't really want that goal? How do you help someone to keep their eye on that goal or know that that is something really worth accomplishing?
I think, you know what, I rely on the ask more questions, ask better questions, because if it's not your goal, then what is actually the goal?
Mm,
And if again, it's setting some parameters so that as best we can, we don't fall into this. I just not feeling it. But again, you're giving yourself permission. So if it's motivation, I'm not looking for you to be motivated. What I want you to be is consistent. Just
mm,
be consistent, because motivation is a feeling. That can be fleeting, but consistency is what I want. I was just thinking today is just that the word commitment, and commitment can be your cement for your accomplishment. I mean, it's really the bedrock for what we want to do going forward. So again, um, along with the your workout is my warm up. One of my slogans is goals don't have feelings. So you're not always going to feel great about it. Sometimes you have a bad workout. Sometimes you want to binge on whatever it is, but just don't slip into, well, this is where I'm going to stay. And you know what? I guess repeating the things that I say back to myself, I'm like, I see why sometimes they're like, you get on my nerves. But I'll tell them, hey, I don't want any invitation to your pity parties. I'll come to all your celebrations, but not that one. So they say you always have something for whatever. I said because I've seen a lot, and again, when there's something new I haven't encountered, I catalog that as well. But just that it's okay. Like those things are going to happen. Same thing with the approach of I want to eat better and I want to clean up my diet. And I'll remind people that there's always going to be a thing. So when you say, well, I'm going to wait until after my birthday, there's going to be a cookout, there's going to be a retirement party, there's going to be a holiday. There's always going to be a thing. So just start yesterday. Just start right now and navigate that road as best you can because it's not always going to be perfect. I know not everyone's an athlete, and it's to the point that I don't specifically give diet and meal plans anymore because people don't follow them. What I do is I coach. I coach along the way. So they'll track their stuff, and I get out I call it my third grade highlighter. I'm like, nope, don't eat this, don't eat that. That's good. So you're getting your check marks. But unless it's a hard deadline, for me, it's unreasonable to expect that level of focus when it comes to diet. Just eat clean. Don't make that another burden because people will jump into I'm on the such and such diet. Just eat better. And if you continue to eat better, it'll be the best. And relative to where you started, it'll be awesome. So it's just really taking a look at what you're eating. And again, I focus on education when it comes to that because sometimes just like when it comes to how we operate, whether it's a workout or whether just in life, we're guided by emotion. Same thing when it comes to your food. If you're just guided by taste, then yeah, you're gonna make those bad decisions. But if it's at the end of the day, food is about fueling and cooling. So fueling your body and cooling your body. And again, I like things that taste good too, but as opposed to, hey, well, I switched to frozen yogurt, it's a better option. Don't eat frozen yogurt because that's just a substitute. I would rather you eat the full fat, delicious ice cream and then not eat it for a while. So enjoy it and work your way up to a point where you deserve it. And then, you don't make Thanksgiving Day, a Thanksgiving week, or Thanksgiving month. So again, I try to inject a little humor and tell them my own challenges when it comes to that because man, it would be great to live like I did in college where I could eat 5 double cheeseburgers and wouldn't gain a pound, but those days are long gone. So just have that consistency of discipline. And I understand that that's a step-by-step process and I'm not there to judge. You're human. But I'm going to be here regardless. That if anything, if nothing else, if I can be that consistency, I'm happy to do that. And as long as they keep showing up, I'll take care of the rest. Because of course, at 5 a.m, not everyone has a smile on their face and full of energy. But I know it's my job to do that. And they're like, "Are you ever tired?" I'm like, "I'm tired right now. I'm sore right now." But it's my job to keep pushing you toward where you want to go. At the end of the day.
D'Angelo, I love that what you said about motivation versus consistency and how our goals don't have feelings because consistency is something you can measure. And it sounds like you are helping your clients to do it even though, right? Even
Right.
though you're tired at 5 a.m., you're still doing the thing. And that consistency is what is going to build that momentum and
Absolutely.
that
You got it.
success,
You got it.
right?
You got it. That's it.
So let's talk about your background because this is something
Sure.
I saw on your website. Life GPS, goal, plan, and sacrifice. Tell me more about that.
Well, that obviously is my book, and it is available on Amazon. It's just my way of bringing all of sort of my philosophy together in terms of success overall. It doesn't have to be sport, it doesn't have to be business, but just life. And that's just sort of my approach. I saw how we take those steps as a GPS, which is how we find our direction. And with that, the actual GPS actually helps us find the fastest way to get to where we want to go. So that goal, that plan, that sacrifice, that sequence, I just sort of created a pathway because I saw that in order to really embrace and achieve success, that you really have to be specific on terms of what you want. And again, that doesn't mean you're going to start out with exactly where you want to go, but you want to have a pretty good idea. And then along the way, you're going to have the wrong turn here or traffic there, and you just adjust and you adapt. But with that, there's going to be absolute sacrifice. And sometimes that's changing your circle that you're around. I had two amateur boxers that were on the Olympic track. And so they asked me, well, coach, why do we practice at 6 a.m. on Saturday? I said, to keep you in the house on Friday. That's the only reason, because I don't want you out there where you can be, your focus can be straight. And again, I want you to have fun, but there has to be discipline, because what you're aspiring to demands an awful lot. And it's okay to dream that big, but there's going to be something that you have to give up, in terms of reaching that. And the planning part, again, you don't have to have step by step right here at this particular time, but you have a pathway of gaining that through mentorship, which I'm a huge proponent of, because I'm always taking from my clients as much as I'm giving to them. Books can be your mentor, which again, that's something I'm a big fan of. And just constantly bettering yourself through, it can just be through conversations. An opportunity like this helps me to reflect and consider, where I want to go going forward. And I just wanted a simple guide, and I didn't want to have some Pulitzer Prize winning book, but just something quick that was kind of a guide plan. So it gives you some interesting perspective, some of those taglines that keep you consistent and on point. And in fact, I have a chapter called "Shut Up. You can't listen when you're talking," because
Oh.
it's really, don't confuse yourself with, oh, I know everything. We don't, and it's okay. It's okay to not fill the space with words just because there's space there. Sometimes you want to take those pauses just to slow down and reflect, and how critical that is, because sometimes we get caught up in the things that we do that we don't say, well, one, let me just appreciate what I've accomplished, instead of focusing on, well, I haven't done this thing yet, and I haven't done that thing. Like, you've done a lot, and you've had an impact. And more often than not, that's everyone is someone's hero, whether you know it or not. And it's that person that, hey, when I pull out my driveway, I see the guy jogging all the time. And guess what? I want to jog sometime in the future. I haven't done it yet, but that person that I see all the time keeps me going. And I was made aware that when I had a young lady that I helped. She lost, I think, about 100 pounds, and she was away on sabbatical from work, so she wasn't training at that time. And people were checking, well, where is such and such? We haven't seen her videos, because that motivates me. And I told her, I said, see, people were watching, even though there weren't the comments and all that good stuff. I said, but they knew that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday they would get a video. You were always smiling, even though you were sweating, and they're looking for you. They're checking on you. Like, you have fans, whether you know it or not, and you can be someone's hero, even the most average person, because there's something that you do that has an impact. And just sort of be aware of that, because when I go to the gym for myself, I'm just sort of tunnel vision. I have my headphones in, and the older gentleman, he said, "Hey man, I always see you on the stepper." He said, "You must love this thing." I said, "Let me tell you a secret. I hate it, but my body needs cardio. And if I don't do it first, I'm not going to do it at all, because I hate cardio." He's like, "Hey, well, you keep doing it, man. I'm going to keep going in here." I said, "Well, I'll check to make sure you're in here. And, whenever I see him, just give him a little wave, and we're both up there." He's not moving at the same pace. He said, "But you keep me motivated." So just those little things, if anything, I guess, particularly as I get older, I just try to do my best to appreciate every moment, and do my best to impact people in a positive way. So that's slowed me down a lot. It's made me not be so, as much as I like to be prompt, I'm not so much pressure on time and timing, because sometimes it happens for a reason, and just appreciate it. And because old school me was, why is there traffic, and I hate this, there's a reason for it. And sometimes slowing down, and again, that's in the book. Sometimes you need to slow down to speed up. Take your time, smell the roses, appreciate, rest, put your feet up, because and in the end, what is all this hard work for? It's to better yourself. So smile more. um I'm just thinking about it. I do things that some people consider weird, but I had a period where I was going around taking a picture of people's smiles, and I said, because asking someone to smile can be awkward, but they're like, well, what do you mean? But you made them smile for that moment. So I just try to appreciate everything, because people are important, and seeing people do well is awesome. I mean, that to me, that's more satisfying than doing something for myself a lot of times. So my greatest reward is to seeing them reach the heights that they want to accomplish, and I know they appreciate me, so that's more than enough for me.
Yeah. Talking with you, D'Angelo, I cannot imagine you working behind a desk. It's like
Isn't that something?
you are doing the thing that you are meant to do, and living your life with passion and adding to that as you are having these experiences and having these messages come to you, and you want to share them with others. And so I can only imagine working out with you is probably hard work, but a lot of fun. So
A lot of fun.
that's what
I have fun.
that's what I'm imagining in my mind, is that you are a lot of fun to work with. Um, and I appreciate this conversation so much and all that you've shared with us. And we're going to connect your social. I know you're on Instagram and X and TikTok and website and all of that. So we'll make sure and link to that so others can find you.
Right, right.
Before I let you go, though, I want to
Sure.
ask you this. What are you doing today to live your life on purpose?
You know what? Today I am one. I made sure I sat outside just for a moment, just to enjoy the sunshine amidst all the work and the demands. But today, actually, I spoke with a gentleman leaving the gym, and he said, "Hey, man, I see you lifting on the weights. You're doing a great job." I say, "It's a necessary evil, so I'll just keep showing up and doing my best." I said, "How about you?" He said, "Well, I'm a cancer survivor, and I know I need to be in here consistently, and I'm doing my best." I said, "No, you're doing great. Like don't downplay that. You're doing great because you're here. It's a blessing, and as much as the weight I'm pushing over there, I'm sure you've done more just in your life." And he was like, "Oh, I really appreciate it." So just the on purpose part is, again, appreciating people, um, and not just motivating them, but literally being interested in their well-being, and them reaching the heights that they want to reach, and just taking the time more than anything. That's been probably within the last few months, really just taking the time, because you get older, you get time to reflect. And I think my niece said, "Weren't you were alive in the late 19s?" And of course, that didn't feel good. But appreciating those little things, watching them swim. And again, my mind always goes to the human development performance aspect. I'm like, okay, she's got good hip flexibility. So I'm already planning workouts from the stuff that they're doing, but also actually seeing them swim and have fun and smile. I have a 2-year-old, so same thing. I'm just in the flow with her, and she wants to climb on me and
Mhm.
teach me how to read, right? But just taking that time to appreciate more.
Oh, I love that. And something that's gonna stick in my mind is when I'm doing cardio, I'll just think like, D'Angelo doesn't like cardio, but he still does it. He doesn't like it either.
At
I don't
all.
Maybe a
I
lot
wish
of
I could
people
fast
are out
forward.
there. Maybe people are pretending to like cardio. There may be people out there who do, but what's more important is to just be consistent, whether you like it or not, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Consistency will take you everywhere.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for all that you've shared. It's been a heartwarming conversation. So thank you so much for joining
Thank you
me.
so much for the opportunity. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. You can check out more over at rachelegbert.com. Your life is too precious to live just by chance or by default. I want you to live your life on purpose. We will see you next time.